Greetings and welcome to an African Diaspora Coalition Herbal Wellness Plant Workshop. My name is Pamela Boyce Sims. I'm the convener of a network of wonderful people who grow medicinal herbs, and we're going to be focusing today on lungs and the respiratory system, specifically medicinal herbs that treat and tonify this system. But first, let's take a moment to consider who are our co-partners. First, we have a circle or a group of folks here in Chester, Pennsylvania, which is Delaware County, Pennsylvania, whose task it is to spread the word about the healing power of medicinal plants, what plant medicine does in the body, how it affects health, how we grow it together. They also help distribute plant medicine free of charge in economically distressed areas. They work through community organizations and service organizations and churches and sororities and fraternities, many types of grassroots organizations that get the word out about how to use, benefit from, and grow medicinal herbs. One of our partners is the Taylor Memorial Arboretum, where we do wild crafting of herbs, meaning we, in the wild, out in the open, we are taking herbs in their natural habitat, and we use them in our tinctures and teas. This next group of people is the Healing Roots and Branches Circle. That group of folks represent grow sites all over the country who send us herbs in the form of root crops from Vermont and upstate New York and Maryland and Ohio, as well as Texas. They are suppliers that send medicinal herbs in the form of roots to eastern Pennsylvania at this point, where they are used in distressed communities. We also have wonderful Quaker allies who have grow sites on meeting house grounds. This is Harrisburg Friends that grow nettles and dandelion root for us. And here is a group of friends who are representing herb grow sites throughout the state of Pennsylvania. State College, that you see here, is already on board as a grow site. All of these circles of growers and educators and friends that are working together to get the word about medicinal herbs meet in a constellation of projects. The specialty circles of a specific area come together in general circles, and the intersection work kind of like permeable membranes where communications flow across these membranes as circles use sociocracy, which is our decision-making and agreement-forming process, to communicate with transparency, with fluidity. Sociocracy gives the space for emergence, creativity, innovation with complete transparency, and it is completely egalitarian. Let's consider for a moment some of the guiding principles that frame the work that we do. The first would be biological intelligence. We work in concert with highly complex, organized organic life that adapts and responds and creates, rather than operating mechanically, mechanistically. This is predominantly what separates holistic healthcare from conventional allopathic medicine and drug therapy, which only treats symptoms. Secondly, an abiding understanding of psychoneuroimmunology, which is simply the mind-body connection. The understanding that physical systems in the body function as a unified whole, an interface with our thoughts and with our emotions. We understand that there is no black or white gospel hotline to absolute truth, magic bullet thinking in plant medicine. We very simply listen deeply and respond to the biological intelligence emerging from the life circumstances of the specific precious human body, the specific human person that's sitting before us. The 5 steps that frame the work that we do, that we move through as someone is sitting with us telling us their story. Steps toward comprehensive, holistic systems healing are the following. We first look at symptom relief. Someone comes, they're in discomfort. They come to see us. We want to relieve their suffering. So we immediately address whatever pain is off the scale or really troublesome. Pain or whatever other symptom might be. The second is detoxification and cleansing. We're getting to a deeper level now. We are trying to rid the body of viruses and fungi, heavy metals, accumulated waste and debris, chemical toxins, anything that is built up and obstructing optimal health that is accumulated there. After we do that cleansing process, then we work toward revitalization. We are going to address the depletion of nutrients. We're going to see what nutrients and amino acids need to be input in diet and in herbal treatments, etc. Then we look to regeneration. We are repairing, replacing, strengthening, and tonifying tissue, tonifying the body, tonifying organ systems. Revitalization and regeneration work hand in hand. And then finally, the only way that this is going to stick, the only way that all that we have done is going to move forward to create optimal health on an ongoing basis is if we begin to talk to people about reworking the underlying harmful lifestyle patterns that have been causing challenges. Medicinal herbs have been used for thousands of years to correct functional imbalances that underlie illness in the body. They get at causes instead of symptomatically treating diseases in a superficial way. The different actions of medicinal herbs are categorized in accordance with body systems. There are those that have general effects, antibiotic effects, nervous system effects, cardiovascular, digestive, respiratory effects, urinary, musculoskeletal, female reproductive effects, and effects on the skin. Some herbs have specific effects. Others have more universal, general, system-wide effects. We're going to be taking a look today at herbs that address the respiratory system and the lungs, but we're going to take a moment to do so against the backdrop of the herbs that have general effects so that we have that context. We begin with the adaptogens. Similar to tonics, adaptogens have the ability to either increase or decrease body functions according to whatever is needed. They're renowned for being able to stave off and adapt to stress. They improve our performance. They can help us come back from illness. And they also have anti-aging effects. The anti-inflammatories. Inflammation is one of the primary defense systems of the body, so it's part of every major disease. Herbs can block inflammation, as many studies have shown. Anti-mutagens are the anti-cancer agents working in a variety of ways, but basically they prevent the development of cancer by interfering with the ability of a substance to induce cellular changes. Antioxidants strike at one of the major causes of disease and aging, free radical damage. Astringents are drying agents that reduce the body's secretions and have the ability to coagulate and precipitate proteins. They reduce mucus, and their effect is to tone and tighten tissues that have become weakened or that lack tone. Demulcents reduce inflammation and irritation, providing a protective coating that allows the tissue to heal. Detoxifiers clear accumulated debris from the organs, the tissues, and lymphatic cells. It's a deep tissue cleansing. They can alleviate underlying causes of both acute and chronic diseases. Immune stimulants have the ability to affect the immune system, have a wide, far-reaching effect on every possible illness and susceptibility. Immune stimulation is useful in a wide range of infections, inflammations, and acute and chronic diseases. Stimulants increase the activity of the body system and the overall nervous excitation. They act directly through the nervous system or increase circulation, hormonal function, or excretion of toxins. Tonics, very important. They may be specific to the heart, to the nerves, or to the liver. Tonics help balance the organism and act as nurturing, restorative, and strengthening factors in the body. Let's consider the respiratory system, the herbal actions that have specific respiratory system effects. Antimicrobials are antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal, and antiseptic. Astringents dry out and tone weak tissue. Demulcents soothe irritated dry linings of the throat and bronchial tubes. They add a protective barrier against further damage. Expectorants soften dry phlegm and expel the waste from the respiratory tract. They're used for moist coughs, sinus or chest congestion, and asthma. Antispasmodic are the cough suppressants. They decrease irritation in the nerve linings, calm muscle spasms in the bronchial tube, and the diaphragm. Lung tonics correct illnesses as they strengthen respiratory passages and the thoracic cavity. These days, our attention has been bracketed upon COVID-19 and its variants, now a pandemic. Our aspiration is that it will become a very manageable endemic phenomenon in our society. This slide depicts the upper and lower respiratory tracts, both of which can be infected by COVID. The disease enters the body through the upper respiratory tract, our nose, eyes, and mouth, enters a healthy cell, and then uses that cell to make new virus parts, which is why we grow lung protection medicinal herbs, Elecampane and ground ivy. The Elecampane that you see there in that slide is grown at Chester Friends Meeting House in Chester, Pennsylvania, which is in Delaware County, Pennsylvania. It's also grown for us at many grow sites throughout the country. We use the root. The ground ivy that you see here is a beautiful creeping plant that grows low to the ground. We harvest that at the Taylor Memorial Arboretum in Delaware County, Pennsylvania. Looking first at Elecampane, it's a tonifying lung herb used in respiratory ailments and disorders such as bronchitis, asthma, tuberculosis, emphysema, whooping cough, and pneumonia. It dries up mucus secretions, and in accordance with the categories that we reviewed earlier, it is an antispasmodic, anti-inflammatory expectorant. It is a perennial plant, a member of the sunflower family, and here you see it growing. The root is what we use. It is thick and rigid. The plant itself grows to up to 6 feet. It's a very tall, beautiful plant, grows in a variety of soils as long as the soil is well drained. The leaves are broad and toothed. The lower leaves are stalked. It needs full sun to partial shade. It grows easiest from root cuttings placed 10 inches apart. This plant needs a lot of room to spread. It's a very large plant. We harvest this in the second year, either in the spring or the fall, and it blooms from summer to fall. It's harvested by loosening the soil in a wide circle around the roots because they do branch out. Breathe Easy is one of our tinctures that supports the lungs and the respiratory system. This tincture is excellent for conditions that are long-standing with the respiratory system, such as asthma, COPD, also bronchitis. It is a combination of herbs that we've talked about earlier, Elecampane, and we'll talk about ground ivy, that is nonplussed. We've had tremendous results in the Chester area with this tincture. Ground ivy is a decongestant herb for drying excess mucus in the throat, the nose, the ears, the sinuses. It's also known as a heavy detox for heavy metals. It's an excellent heavy-duty detox, especially lead. It's been known as a lead detox for centuries. This is particularly important where we are working in Chester, but it's also applicable and transferable to cities that are distressed and are environmental toxic waste dumps, which is really where Chester is at this point. It's been a waste dumping ground for decades for the 6 mid-Atlantic states. So people have been breathing in heavily particulate-laden air in their lungs that has been affecting them so that asthma rates, COPD rates, respiratory infections are off the charts with regard to the rest of the state of Pennsylvania as well as the rest of the country. So the detox, the heavy detox of heavy metals for ground ivy is essential. You'll see the ground ivy growing here. The part that we use are the leaves and the flowers. It's an absolutely beautiful plant. The flowers are pink, purple, or lavender. It grows as a ground cover in big patches. Because it grows very close to the ground and horizontally most of the time, they call it creeping Charlie, creeping Jenny, and Gil over the ground. It grows horizontally most of the time, but in the spring, you'll see little stems poke up, maybe about 6 inches or so, that have the flowers on them. Absolutely lovely. And then they bend back down and grow horizontally for the rest of the season. The leaves are fan-shaped. It grows abundantly and it prefers partial shade to shady areas. We harvest about 2/3 of the plant in the springtime. Ground ivy is also used in our detox and respiratory protection tincture, along with Elecampane that we spoke of earlier, and Mullein that we're going to speak of in just a moment. This tincture is superb for people who need to do serious cleansing and detox of multiple systems. Burdock, for example, which we'll get to in another presentation, is a superlative detoxifier of the lymphatic system, the liver, the bloodstream. It is excellent, and in use with mullein and elecampane and ground ivy, as well as grandelia that we'll talk about as well. It is beautiful for the respiratory system. Mullein, which is used in our respiratory tinctures and teas, is one of my all-time favorite plants to work with. I love the texture of the fuzzy leaves that's just so soft. It's a wonderful plant to work with. Mullein protects and rebuilds the lining of the lungs, soothes dry and inflamed throat and bronchial tubes. It's used for asthmatic wheezing and to dry excess mucus in the throat, nose, ears, and sinuses. It treats bronchitis, emphysema, tonsillitis, colds, and flu, and shrinks swollen glands. You see the plant over there growing in its rosette form. The part that we use are the leaves and the flowers. However, the roots can be used as well. Actually, the entire plant can be used. We focus on the leaves and the flowers. Mullein grows along roadsides and thrives in poor, disturbed soil. The roots first help break up the soil, and then as the leaves fall, the leaves themselves add nutrients to the soil around it. And then mullein spreads elsewhere to poorer soils, giving other plants the opportunity to grow in the wonderful soil that it has created. You need to give mullein a lot of space to spread out. As I mentioned, the leaves are fuzzy and they can remain small in the first year and then grow up to 2 feet long later on. And as I mentioned before, it is a biennial plant, which means that the first year the leaves are going to appear low to the ground in basal rosettes, a beautiful bouquet kind of pattern. The second year, a long, slender stalk emerges with a bright yellow flowers that are just absolutely gorgeous. The flowers die quickly and need to be picked daily in the mid-morning once the dew has dried. Both the leaves and the flowers are used in tea and tincture. Grindelia, better known as gumweed, is a plant that we use to treat bronchial asthma, allergies, and respiratory problems due to phlegm buildup. By now, you're beginning to see the pattern with all of these plants that we use in the tinctures specifically for the respiratory system. They all work together. They all potentiate each other. Grindelia helps with difficult breathing, rattling in the chest, shortness of breath, panting, and wheezing. The plant will literally slow the heart rate and decrease irritability of bronchial passages. It's a member of the daisy family, and it is a perennial. The part that we use are the leaves and the flowers. Grindelia needs full sun. It won't grow in partial shade successfully. It prefers light to medium, drier, sandy soils, but can adapt to soil that's slightly more moist. Once it's established, this plant is drought tolerant and able to survive exclusively on rainfall without having to be watered. One of our grow sites had an irrigation problem, and Grindelia was wonderful. It did very, very well there. Be careful in transplanting it, though. That's where the challenge is. Transplanting it from smaller pots or plug trays to the site where it's going. That seems to be its fragile stage, but once it's established, it doesn't need a lot of watering. It grows to 2 to 3 feet tall. It grows and looks like a shrub and blooms from late spring into the deep fall. It spreads via rhizomes and seeds. The flower buds produce gummy white substances, and the leaves feel rubbery and sticky, hence the term gumweed. The plants are strong for about 4 years, after which they die out. However, that's not a big problem either, because they will reseed themselves once they're established in an area that they decide they want to grow in. Perhaps the most important guiding principle that drives the work that we do together is biomimicry. Biomimicry is the imitation of the systems, the strategies, and the elements found in nature to solve human problems and human design challenges. At this juncture in history, now that we've woken up to what human beings have done to the natural world on our planet, we need look no further than to nature, of which we are a part, for answers to many of the problems that we've created. We now turn in awe and reverence to the natural world to observe and learn about what harmonious, service-filled living looks like at its best. We turn to the consummate network of planetary networks, the central nervous system of the planet's natural world, the mycelium. Mycelium are self-organizing fungal membranes that form vast underground networks in the soil. Emphasis on underground. They are self-learning, constantly experimenting, and gaining knowledge. We too set the intention, like the mycelium, to methodically, inexorably build an intimately netted, organic, adaptable foundational strata with purposeful, focused intentionality. Sociocracy as our process for decision-making and creating shared agreements holds the space for organic, innovative emergence. We come together in our multifaceted circles to share information through permeable membranes. We communicate transparently in a completely egalitarian framework supported by the sociocratic process. Plant medicine, growing plant medicine, learning about what it does in the body, how we can best be served and use it, and how we can protect ourselves and vulnerable populations from the vicissitudes of climate change is all about African American self-care sovereignty. We claim control of our health naturally. We address intergenerational health conditions in the Black community. We prepare for systems disruption. And we produce plant medicine locally to meet our own needs.